If you were in the military for any amount of time and you don't have a story about a time you got in trouble,
then did you really go?
Did you really go in the
Okay,
military?
yeah.
Right.
I want to hear the story. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Rebecca.
Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it.
Said I would be here, I think.
You said you'd be here at 1.
My watch is off.
Uh-huh.
No, like off.
Like turned off? That's
Yeah.
really convenient. Thank you for remembering to wake up at 12:30.
I woke up at 12:30.
Yeah, when I asked your girlfriend to wake you up. You know, this wouldn't fly in the military. Which you were once a part of.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
I slept a lot in the military.
Did you ever oversleep?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I would wake up and I would get there and then I would sleep. Because this is going to sound... Here's the thing that I found about talking about the military.
Okay.
People in America that are not in the military hate it when you say bad things about the military.
Oh.
But all the people in the military go, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I was... the highest rank I had was E4, which is the... it's a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
But the emblem is called a SAM shield.
Oh.
And we
What
would
does the
all...
emblem look like? So I can visualize. I'm a visualized.
It looks like a baseball field.
Oh, okay.
But there's an eagle in it. So it's like a diamond with the round top.
Will you make an eagle noise for me?
Eagles don't actually make the noise that people think they do.
That's really upsetting.
I can make you a hawk noise. That's what you want.
Yeah, it is. Oh, that wasn't what I pictured. I think I was thinking more pterodactyl.
Like a...
That's not maybe then. Okay, continue.
Edit.
No, that stays in.
No, that's what I'm saying. You're making a mark so that you can know where it is.
Yeah,
later.
that stays in.
Yeah.
That's going to be the opener. So you were an eagle, a baseball diamond eagle, E4.
Yep, I was an E4 baseball diamond eagle. And it's called the SAM shield. And so there's a common phrase in the military amongst E4s called the sham shield.
Oh.
There's a lot that goes into it. So there's like automatic promotions in the military up to 4.
Okay.
And then after that, you have to apply and you have to be like go through a process.
You have to
and
work for it.
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
So the vast majority of soldiers in the military end up at E4 before they get out.
Okay.
So we call it the E4 mafia.
Okay.
And it tends to be full of, everybody who just got time, like promoted due to time in service. Right. Not necessarily like promoted due to like outstanding above and beyond behavior, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So there's what's called the sham shield amongst the E4 mafia. And there's a lot of, and this is a thing that the military folk will get and the people who aren't in are going to start getting a little upset about in like a weird way. There's a lot of what we call hurry up and wait. And that just means somebody's going to bust into your room at like 4 a.m. and start yelling at you like, hurry up, let's go, we got to go, let's go, hurry up. And then you're going to get to wherever it is you need to go. And that same guy is going to look at his watch and be like, all right, we got here about 4 days early. We are going to wait. And then you just sit and wait until whatever happens.
Oh.
Yeah. And because there's so much hurry up and wait, military personnel often have to figure out like how to pass the time more or less. So there's a lot of dominoes, there's a lot of spades. But
what's the point of the hurry up and waits? Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you ever find an answer to that.
Okay.
What really the general consensus here is that it starts at the top. Top guy goes, hey, we got to have people in this place at this time in this uniform. And let's just say he says, like, be there at 9 a.m., right?
Okay.
And he tells the guy right below him, who tells the guy below him, hey, we need people in this place by 8:45 a.m. And then that guy tells the people below him, okay, we need people in this place by 8:30 a.m. And by the time it gets down to the lowest ranking people, it's like, we got to be here by 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Because everybody wants to be there 15 minutes early.
But they know that they do this.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
they don't care. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. And so,
That's so kind.
yeah, as an E4, now I got to show up at places at 5 a.m. because 20 people ahead of me were told 15 minutes prior to 15 minutes prior. And so there's a lot of hurry up and wait, get somewhere way early, and then just kill time. But you can't look like you're doing nothing. So you have to do something. And the goal is to find something, or I guess I'll put it this way. The goal is to find nothing that looks like something. Does that make sense?
Yes. Weirdly enough, it does.
Yeah.
Like, so you can't look like you're doing something, but you can't look like you're doing nothing?
No, you have to look like you're doing something, but there's nothing to do. So you have to look like you're doing something while doing nothing.
Okay, so you don't have to like stand there in the one spot. Okay.
Most often, no. You don't.
Okay.
No, they're not going to make you stand for 4 hours.
Okay.
And sometimes there is like downtime, and you're allowed to go and sit and play, spades or dominoes, which are the common ones. But
So like, would this pass? Right.
right.
Is it? I'm for some reason I'm thinking of like you standing in a desert. I don't know why I'm thinking that.
It's happened.
Okay. Cool. I'm counting the grains of sand.
Sand.
Yeah. I'm so tired. I'm counting the grains of sand, but like to see them, I have to be laying on the ground. Would that? Yeah. Look at me finagling.
Are you face first in the desert, just laying on your stomach right now?
Am I on my side, perhaps with sunglasses on because it's so sunny out? Yeah.
I mean, sunglasses are fine.
Yeah.
That's normal.
But like you'd really be sleeping.
Yeah. If you're laying there motionless, somebody's gonna check on you, probably just because they're worried you have heat stroke.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit. You got to be a little bit like you could stand in the desert with a clipboard counting the grains of sand, and when somebody comes up to you and says, "What are you doing?" you go, "I'm counting the grains of sand," and they go, "Why?"
Well, I'm just trying to find ways that like, would you be able to nap in those 4 hours?
Yes, but napping involves more hiding.
Okay.
Here's some insight from the reserves. There's active duty, which is what most people think about when they think about the military. And there's the Army Reserves, or they all have reserves, I think. And then there's the National Guard.
Okay.
National Guard is just like the state-specific version of the military.
Okay.
That Army Reserves is the reserves.
Yeah.
You have your active
duty.
In the reserves, we go to drill. We have to play soldier, is what we call it, for 1 weekend every month. And then during the summer, they send us to a training exercise that they say lasts 2 weeks. What they mean is at least 2 weeks, because every year it turns into a month. But it's not a month, because if you're active duty for a full month, they have to pay you basic allowance for housing and other stuff like that. So like if you're married, you get extra money to, help pay for your wife and kids, whatever. But if you're not active for a full month, then they don't have to pay you that. Oh. So very often our training exercises over the summer would be like 29 days.
Oh no.
Because they didn't want to give us the extra $400 to $800 to pay for rent for that month.
That's so messed up.
It's the government.
So, like, what made you even join the military?
I was bored.
You really?
That sounds like an awful answer for this.
But okay. Your truth is your truth.
I was in college at the time. I was going to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida. I was studying mechanical engineering. This was
math people, man.
I got a call from a recruiter, and the recruiting office was like near the college. Mm-hmm. Because the college was in like it was in like the touristy part of Daytona. It was right next to the Speedway, the International Speedway. Mm-hmm. Like we could watch the Daytona 500 from my buddy's dorm room. Mm-hmm. I get a call from a recruiter saying, "Hey, we got your ASVAB scores. You took this test like almost 2 years ago."
What's the ASVAB?
It's the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. Okay. It's a test you take to see what jobs or services you could test into.
Okay, and you took it. What made you want to take it?
My friend was trying to join the Air Force in high school, and he didn't want to take the test alone, so he just signed me up for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I was a good friend, so I went,
And you just took a test.
Yeah.
That's a good friend.
It's a pretty simple, straightforward test. It's a vocational battery, so it's not like you're not doing like high trig or anything. They have a math portion, but it's like what step do you do the exponents kind of thing. Like what's 2 to the 3rd power.
Okay.
It's like really simple stuff. But then there's also like a shop part of it. Like what's a bandsaw used for? Oh. How does an internal combustion engine work?
Oh.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different categories of it. And they just kind of test you across the whole thing. It's maximum score of 99.
Okay.
And I got a 97.
Oh.
Right. And so the recruiter calls me and he goes, hey, just letting you know, tests expire after 2 years. So if you ever wanted to do anything with it, like you basically have just like 2 weeks to do anything until this test expires.
Right.
Do you just want to come in and talk? And I was stuck in traffic. It was the Daytona 500 race week. And so I was not making it to school. And I was like right next to the recruiter's office. So I was like, sure, see you in 10. And then I just hung up. And I showed up 10 minutes later. He's like, I thought you weren't going to come in. I was like, I told you I'd be here. And he was like, yeah, most people say that. And I'm like, well. And that's all I said. And then we sat down and talked. And he was like, well, so here's the thing. The reason I think genuinely is that I did do this is because growing up in Daytona Beach, Florida, I have a really good radar for BS. For when somebody's lying to me or trying to sell me. Like, I can pick out a snake oil salesman from 10 miles away. This guy sat down and went, you know you don't have to be here, right? And I was like, yeah. He was like, you're doing mechanical engineering at, like, a good college. Like, he was confused as to why I was there.
Right.
And that's what made me go, okay, yeah, this guy's going to tell me what's going on. And he's like, yeah, so first of all, you don't have to be here. But since you are here, I'll tell you about this program we have. It's called the Split Ops Reservist Program. Basically what it means is that you're going to go to basic during the summer. And then you'll come back and do class over the winter. Mm-hmm. You'll do your fall and your spring semester, and then next summer you'll do your AIT, your Advanced Individual Training, which is your job-specific training in the Army. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you're in. And then while you're in, if you sign up for the ROTC program at Riddle, you can do what's called the Green to Gold program. They'll give you a monthly stipend, so they'll pay for your housing, they'll pay for your food. With the return is that after you graduate, you do at least 2 years. You sign at least one contract, I think, with the military after that as an officer. And so there's NCO and there's officer. NCO is a non-commissioned officer. And there's officer. Officers are the people you call sir and you salute. They're the ones that like make the decisions more or less. The NCOs are the ones that carry out the decisions. So the NCOs are more of the hands-on. The officers are paper on. Like, they do all of the paperwork, and my God, there's a lot of paperwork. Like, the officers get made fun of a lot.
Right.
As they should. But.
Should they? I don't know.
They should.
Okay.
Listen, this is probably me talking to all of the other enlisted soldiers that are listening to this right now. They should. But. The thing with the officers, and if anybody listening right now is like, I want to do that. I want to go military. I want to do ROTC. I want to be an officer. Here's the thing. The best advice I could possibly give you is learn to write a resume. You know how, you don't say like, I'm good at juggling. You say proficient with whatever.
Exactly. You find like real concrete skills and find ways to like.
It's the way you write it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Learn your superfluous language. And learn to write recommendations for awards. Your job as an officer, as far as an enlisted soldier is concerned, is to make sure that your enlisted soldiers are put up for awards.
Okay.
So the officer would write like, this soldier went above and beyond the call of duty on this and this and this. If without this, the mission would have failed, yada, yada, that kind of thing. And then he sends it up. And then other officers who also weren't out there will go, sounds amazing and excellent. Absolutely. We're going to give this soldier whatever. And if you get awards, those transfer to promotion points. So if you want to make it in the military, you want to go from the E4 mafia to becoming an NCO, to getting responsibility, all that stuff, you need a packet. The packet needs to look impressive. It's got to be basically your military resume, and that includes all of the awards that you've gotten up to that point. So if your officer is, doing his due diligence as far as like that is concerned, you should have a pretty thick packet full of like Army achievement medals and like accommodations and all this stuff, so that when the promotion board looks at it, they go, wow, this guy's only been in for 2 years, but they have so many awards. Like they must be, a high-speed soldier. They're squared away. We'll definitely like take a look at this person. That's
a Steve Rogers kind of guy.
Yeah. Steve Rogers. Yeah. Steve Rogers would have written, a ton of accommodations for it's.
That's all I know about the military is Steve Rogers.
The one thing that bothers me about Captain America.
Be careful what word you say next.
A captain is an officer title.
Mm-hmm.
And so
he's not an officer.
No. I mean, technically, I guess within the bounds of the Marvel universe, Captain Rogers technically is a captain.
That's America's ass.
That is America's ass. But as a captain, he would be getting saluted and like, good morning, sir.
That never happened in any of the movies.
Not that I could, maybe it did. I just didn't notice it. But the other thing is like, very often the NCOs are the ones leading the fight. Like they're the ones that are on the battlefield. I know the first like 2 or 3 ranks of officer might also be out there because you need experience, yada yada. But like the person that would be doing that much fighting would be an NCO. He should be Master Sergeant America. It doesn't roll off the tongue good.
It also really like makes me happy every time you're talking and like you're going in a full sentence and they're like blah blah blah, blah yada 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 yada.
Yeah, listen. Do you want me to say et cetera, et cetera?
I don't know. I think it's more of, I think it's fascinating to see everyone's like individual quirk. Like for me, I go blah 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 blah, but like you go yada yada.
I use words that exist.
Blah is a word that exists. BLAH. That's a word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you once told me this story from when you were in the military, and I didn't really understand the context, but like the story itself was still so cool about like the hearing stuff.
Oh, the auditory stuff.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell it for sure.
Yeah.
None of this matters.
No, it does matter.
No, I'm not. This isn't for you. This is more military. None of this matters. The military personnel listening.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's a fun little thing, but I'm not about to tell you about the time I saved a child from a burning building or anything.
Did you ever save a child from a burning building?
That's not what we're talking about, Rebecca.
Okay, I'll ask you that after this.
Okay. So because I was a split ops reservist, I did basic over the summer, and then I came back the next summer for my AIT, which means my AIT was a little bit different. So like the first week, they just make sure everyone's in the right place at the right time with the right equipment, right uniform, that kind of thing. There was like 4 of us that were split ops reservists. You're just like, they've not told you anything about what's going to happen. You've just gotten off a bus and somebody started yelling at you.
Oh, nice.
Right. And you're given a bunk. You're introduced to the other people in your area. Shout out Boudreaux. He was the guy that was directly next to me in the alphabet at basic. There's a thing in the military called the battle buddy system. You can't go anywhere without your battle buddy.
Oh.
And when you're doing like training events, you get in trouble for not being somewhere with your battle buddy. And it translates in wartime, don't be alone.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Don't jump out of a plane alone.
Right. It's like the hardcore version of like the buddy system when you go on a field trip.
Exactly.
Or like alphabetical order when you find that person that's like below or above you, you're just always together and you have to befriend them because you're always next to each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I knew this was a thing because my father was in before I was, and he told me about the battle buddy system. If you've ever heard military personnel refer to somebody else as my battle, that's my battle, is because that guy was his battle buddy.
Okay, that makes sense. That's so cute.
Yeah, so I found Boudreaux and I was like, don't go anywhere without me. And he was like, okay. Because we were both just like, what's going on? And so there's just a ton of chaos, basically. Everyone's panicked all the time. The anxiety is through the roof because they want to train in chaos.
Yes.
War is chaos, so training should be chaos. You're trying to you're being forced to memorize a ton of information, and then you're constantly moving. You're not allowed to rest. They constantly have you standing up straight with a book in your hand, in line, waiting to get your uniforms, waiting to get your boots, waiting to get all this stuff.
Oh.
And so when I say there's a lot of sleeping, it's because in between everything, you are just trying to find moments to sleep. If they ever put you on a bus, you are sleeping.
Oh.
You'll have a bag on your back, a bag in your lap, and your head will just be down on the bag in your lap, and you'll just pass out. Full nap in 15 minutes, no matter what, every time. If they put you in a place with air conditioning, it's over. It's over. So that's what happens during basic, right? When I go from AIT, I don't have to do that anymore because I've already done it. So when we go to do our testing again, we have to do our audio tests. So they put you in this soundproof box that seats 8 people. And then you put on your headphones and you get a clicker. And then you're going to start hearing a tone in one ear, and it just changes pitches. And you have to click every time you hear it. And that's how they test the depth of your hearing kind of thing,
right.
In every direction. Then you hear it in the other ear up and down. The first time I did it at basic, I passed. But it was chaos. There was so much other stuff going on that when I did it this time and everything was calm and there were less people in the booth and they were all quiet because they knew what they were supposed to do, I tested so much higher that after I got out, they made me do it again. The woman there was like, your scores are so wildly different that we need to make sure this wasn't a fluke.
Right.
So you're going to have to do this again. And I got back in there and I was like, I just want to let you know, I heard everyone else's beeps. So my score wasn't even, and she was like, no, you didn't. And I was like, okay. And so I went in there again and I scored even higher than what I had just done with the 4 people. And she was like, why? And I was like, I'm telling you, I was hearing the beeps. And she was like, do you want to do this again with just the one on? And I was like, yeah, sure. That sounds fine. It's a cool, dark room, and I don't have to do anything for 5 minutes. Absolutely, I'll do this again. And so we go in there, and she just turns the one on, and I scored, even higher than that. And I was like, yeah, there are no more beeps that time. It was just mine. And she was like, I've never seen this before. And I was like, okay.
All right.
Can I go? And she was like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, go. And I was like, okay. And I'd never care. It never
So you have supersonic hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like superhero.
Yeah. It's not as fun as you might think. I don't know.
With great power comes great responsibility, Ben.
Yeah, I
From
eavesdrop on so many people.
What's the craziest thing you've heard?
Well, that's the other problem that I have is ADHD.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't remember. I hear people I always hear when someone's talking about me.
Oh.
If someone says my name, we could be at opposite ends of a room with people yelling in between. But if somebody says my name, I will hear it every time. And I'll be able to look up and be like, what? What do you want?
Hey, that's how you answer the phone when I call.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, I tried to answer with hello one time, and you were like, oh my God, are you okay?
Yeah, I know, because for 2 years, you only answered with what? Or what do you want? And then you offered hello, and I'm like, are you sick?
That's fair.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean, can you hear the air conditioner right now?
Yes. But I also, I don't know, I feel like Like, I can hear very well, but I feel like I have that kind of sense with, like, facial expressions. I can read facial expressions too well.
Can you read mine?
Yeah, it's that we're best friends.
Mm.
Obviously, that's like plaster
I think you
on
need to
your
go back
face
in the booth.
24/7. No. I know. But like, it's it's like I can read people's facial expressions to the point that I feel like I can figure out like ulterior motives, like attitudes, like things like that. But then my inner heart is like, nah, they really like me. We're we're friends. They would never.
Uh-huh.
And then like a month later, I'll call you, man, they weren't really my friend.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes.
And I'll be like, I know. Yeah.
But so like, do you have any regrets when it comes to the military? Like, was there anything that like you either regretted or got in trouble for or anything like that? Oh, there's the face.
Oh. If you were in the military for any amount of time and you don't have a story about a time you got in trouble,
then did you really go?
Did you really go in the military?
Yeah.
Right.
I want to hear the story.
Well, first of all, I'll say this because you asked, do I regret anything in the military?
Yeah.
Right.
First.
I am gonna put it like this.
Okay.
I don't regret doing it, but if someone offered me money to go back to basic and do it all over again, there's not a number I would say yes to.
Okay. Yeah.
I love everybody I met.
It was a good one-time experience.
It was a great one-time experience.
Okay.
You know? And great is used very loosely here. I love the people.
Okay.
The brotherhood, the brothership, all that stuff. And you say that there's obviously women there too.
Right.
They're part of the brotherhood now.
Yeah.
Like it's just how it is.
They're one of the guys.
Yeah. Like there were some female officers, and I do want to say, I know the word female has gotten like a weird negative connotation lately.
Has it?
Yeah. So, but the idea there is just like, think about the type of men you in your life you hear use the word female.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm using it in the very military way of males on the right, females on the left kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there were some female officers, which you call them ma'am. It's sirs and ma'ams.
Manners.
Right. But they were younger, and so they were like just
I don't want to be a ma'am.
Yeah, they were like, I don't like being called ma'am. And I was just chatting. It wasn't like it was during one of our exercises or something, and we just ended up being in the same area, so we were just chatting. And she brought up that she just doesn't like being called ma'am, and I was like, what do you prefer? And she's like, I don't know. I've never been asked that before.
I feel that because I remember when I first started teaching, and do most kids have manners? No. But when the few that do, and they're like, oh yes, ma'am, and just kind of wait, I'm like not that much older than you.
Yeah. I don't think ma'am even implies age.
It doesn't, but like it does.
But it kind of does.
Yeah, it doesn't, but it does.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things at play there, but we can get into etymology later. So we were just talking, and I was like, can I call you Miss? And she was like, she thought it was funny. Miss. Just MISS, not MS dot.
That almost gives me like fancy vibes.
Yeah.
Miss. Okay.
Yeah. And whenever I saw her walking by, I would have to do, salute, good morning, ma'am. But I would, just to her specifically, I would go, good morning, miss. And she would laugh every time. And it was just the silliest little thing that I could do to make the day a little bit bright, because
so sweet.
A lot of the military is what we use a phrase called embracing the suck. It sucks for everyone, and we have to embrace it, and that's how we become friends. Everyone else calls it trauma bonding.
Trauma bonding, embracing the suck,
Yeah, and so there's always been little dumb things that people try to do to make the day a little bit brighter. There was this guy, Kotraba, when I was at basic. He would wake up every day, regardless of anything. He would wake up every day and just say, another beautiful day in Georgia, with just a chipper attitude. He didn't believe it.
But it's like you gotta like
Yeah.
convince yourself.
Yeah, it was wildly sarcastic every time, but it would make us chuckle. And it got to the point where, like, if we were ever doing like a thing at basic that we all hated, people would just start going, "Well, another beautiful day in Georgia," and it was just like a way that our platoon like got through stuff was just by being sarcastic to the universe,
That's
kind
so
of.
sweet.
And so I had a couple things that I would do sometimes, like. I would, like, in the halls randomly when I'm passing people, I would look and be like, "Hey, thank you for your service."
Oh.
And it's just like, it's very silly coming from another soldier.
Oh, is it?
Yes. So, like, civilians say it to soldiers all the time. Like, "Thank you for your service."
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Like, do you?
We all hate it.
Oh, really?
We all hate it.
Why?
Because we don't know how to respond.
Okay.
And there's also, for the most part, from all the people that I've talked to prior service-wise, everyone has this sense of either not feeling like they did enough to deserve a thank you for your service, or there's just a general disdain for their own service.
Interesting.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm one of those people that like I feel like I have to say it.
You don't. But yeah, there's because that gets into like more of the general like military industrial complex and all
I
that
get
stuff.
That makes sense.
There's this thing that I brought up when I was in, and some people didn't like it, but it's very, very true. There's only two reasons somebody would join the military. And you can be both, but it's either because you were dumb or you were poor.
What about? I'm sure there's like people that just genuinely do.
If it's anything other than poor, it's dumb.
Oh. Why do you call it dumb?
I mean, I could probably find a different word for it, but
feel
like
like,
just for the ease of the phrase, it's either dumb or poor.
Oh no.
Dumb. The people who say dumb are like they know. They're like, this was not like a smart choice that I made. I fall into both categories.
Bless.
Because I did not need to do it, and I did it anyway.
Yeah.
I was also very poor. The money sounded great, but I didn't need it.
What about people who like want to do it because like it follows in family's footsteps, or they feel like it's the right thing to do? Even
Dumb.
So close.
Dumb. Dumb.
Okay, keep going.
Because like, I have a general belief that there hasn't been a war worth fighting since the Second World War.
Okay.
Everything else has been
Yeah.
for ulterior motives since then.
Yeah.
So, with the belief that, like, for God and country, we are literally given numbers when we sign up for the military. It's your DOD ID number. The belief that your God and your country care about you and then hand you a number is very contradictory. The belief that you're fighting the good fight when there hasn't been a quote-unquote good fight since 1942.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Okay. I see
The
that.
only people that I will put in a gray area are like my dad did it, my grandpa did it, his grandpa did it, like family legacy stuff. I would still personally classify it as dumb, but that's because I moved out at 16. I don't really talk to my family.
Right.
So that's like
It's a different kind of experience.
It's a different kind of
Yeah.
experience. But so there's just a lot of gray behind thank you for your service. And very often when you say that to a soldier, the first thing they think of is not their own service. It's who they can't say that to anymore.
Oh.
Which when people say Happy Memorial Day, is like,
no, that's
great.
an oxymoron.
I have 6 friends that would really love to celebrate this Memorial
like,
Day.
I feel like so many people like genuinely don't understand what Memorial Day, what Veterans Day. Do you know how many people I've talked to that genuinely think like it's not just Memorial and Labor Day, it's Memorial and Veterans Day. They think it's Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and Labor Day. And I'm like, Labor Day has nothing to do with the military, but so many people don't understand that.
Maybe this is a hot take,
Okay, I'm ready.
but I think it's a good thing when people don't understand that. If
Okay.
you are a civilian and you don't understand the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day, and you don't understand why they're different or how they're different or why they're meaningful or why they're not, in any case, that's a good thing.
Because it means they haven't been affected
It
by
means
that.
they haven't been affected by it.
Well, it's been so interesting because I've done like some little history videos on Memorial Day and where does it come from and what does it mean, and Veterans Day and where does it come from, what does it mean?
We
and,
wanted
like,
a federal holiday.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
But even more so, like the people in the comments that like get so frustrating and angry about like, well, what about my grandparents? And I'm like, what about them? Well, it's Memorial Day and my grandfather's still alive, but he's a veteran. Okay.
Well, he can have Veterans Day.
Great. Like, I don't like, can you not just enjoy, not necessarily celebrate, because obviously you're not celebrating.
A celebration of life in a way.
Right. Yes. But I'm like, can we not just like acknowledge the people that this is for? Like, your grandfather can be so great and so glad that they are alive and well, and you know their service, they did the things that they wanted to do, but not like the what about me effect.
Yeah.
the what about me effect.
I mean, that's just the military. I mean, not the military. That's just the internet is what I meant to say. That's just the internet. I've been really mean to people like that.
Oh no.
And I don't think I've been really mean to them. Okay. I think I've been neutral to them. But when you're a what about me person on the internet, you expect roses and flowers tossed at your feet. And I don't do that.
Right.
If people go, what about my grandpa? I go, what about him? And they go, well, he's still alive. I'm like, well, I guess this doesn't apply to him then. Go away.
Well, it's even more interesting, like, when I talk about Labor Day, and they're like, but what about our soldiers? And I'm like, this has nothing to do
they're
with
laboring.
The military.
Don't worry, they're laboring.
It's wild, but I want to go back to the stories about when you got in trouble, because I'm not forgetting about that. I want to hear that.
Okay. So, I'll tell a couple.
Okay, I'm ready.
A couple where I was adjacent to people being in trouble, and one where I got in trouble.
Okay.
In the dumbest way.
Okay, I'm ready.
So, when I was at AIT, I was put in charge of my platoon. It's just like a thing they do regularly where they'll grab a soldier or two, and for like 1 week, you're quote unquote in charge. Okay. You're the PG, the platoon guide. And they put me in charge when we had 2 weeks left of AIT, and it was supposed to be one male, one female in charge. And then the female that was in charge with me got into an actual fist fight, like day 2. And so she was removed. She was stripped of her fake rank, and they never appointed a second person to be in charge with me. So it was just me. And then after the first week, which is when they usually switch it out, they didn't switch me out. So they just kept me in charge for the last 2 weeks of training, which I was fine with. But it was like very apparent that like the actual like sergeants, the platoon sergeants that were there to like make sure we were doing what, like they kind of checked out a little bit in that last week.
Oh no.
It became this thing where like when other soldiers started getting mad at each other, I was the one that was like, I'm going to step in and like quell this kind of thing. And there were these two guys that never got along the whole time. And they started like arguing in formation, which is where we're supposed to be like standing up straight, not moving, yada, yada. And they were just like yelling at each other. And so I turned around and I separated them. I was like, you know, one person go over there, one person go over there, just stand in a different place. But then afterward, I made them come into the room, like just the two of them and me sitting in a room. And I was like, what the heck? What's going on? Am I allowed to curse on this podcast?
I'll beep it out, yeah.
Okay. I'll skip a couple of the phrases. But they were basically just like, you know, he instigated me, said this, and I was like, you know, you don't have to do that. Like, I think you can imagine it was a man saying a fairly sexual remark, but as a command.
Yeah.
Yeah, to another guy.
Yeah.
And the other guy was like, he said that to me, and I was like, well, you know, you don't have to. And he was like, yeah, I'm not going to. I'm like,
then what's the problem?
So yeah, I was like, so he said it, and he's like, yo, back in my hood, back on my block, that's fighting words. I'm like, look around. where are you right now? And he's like, that's not the point. I'm like, that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
Look what you're wearing. Look at the name on your chest. Look at the other side. It says U.S. Army on it. I was like, look around. You're in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
You're a grown adult.
You are an adult man making his own choices in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. You're not back in South Jersey right now. You're in Missouri.
Well, even if you were back in Jersey, you're a grown adult.
Right. That too.
Sticks
and then I looked at the other guy.
Break my bones.
And I was like,
will never hurt me.
Yeah. And I looked at the other guy. I was like, why'd you say that? And he was like, don't like him. I was like, okay, shut up about it.
Yeah, you're a grown adult.
Hey, watch it. Close your mouth for 5 minutes.
Keep doing that.
Yeah. Did it hurt? Did it hurt to not speak?
I wish more people in the world understood that. You cannot like someone silently.
Yeah.
You can just
do it quietly. Don't do it in my formation. You want us to all get in trouble because you don't like that guy? You know how silly that is? You don't like that guy, so you gotta say something about it.
That's so...
Oh, you silly. You're just a bunch of silly gooses. That's what you got. You're both silly gooses. I don't know why you're friends. You're from the same flock. Silly little gooses. And they hated that. They hated being called silly gooses.
Well, yeah, because they're grown men who, like, can't not be affected by words.
Yeah. But, like, so you kill him with kindness. And then I was like, look at me right now. I love you. I love you both. You're my brother. I mean that. I would die for you. That's why I'm here. I love you. Be nice to each other. And then I walked out, and one of them yelled, you, Brainerd.
Oh.
And I turned around and went, I just looked over my shoulder back at him and went, you don't mean that. And then I kept walking.
Oh, my temper would not be able to know.
I got like halfway down the hall, and he stuck his head out the door and went, you're right. I don't mean that. You're a good dude.
Oh.
And I was like, thanks, man. And that was...
See, you're better than me.
And
my temper... Ooh.
I just made sure they weren't like next to each other the rest of the time. And like that was it. But like I had to tell them what was going on.
You had to do classroom management.
But then treat them with kindness, and then treat them like I had to meet them where they were. And that's where they were. It was like I needed to show them like you're not where you think you are. You're not where you always have been your whole life. This is different. But also, you're so silly. What are you doing?
You're like an adult babysitter.
Yeah, that's basically what the military is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like classroom management. Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel that.
So there was that time. There was another time when I was at NTC, which is out in the Mojave Desert, Fort Irwin, California. We were there for 29 days. And while I was there, it was like a small group of my people from my unit that were there to help a bigger unit. Mm-hmm. And excuse me. We meet the other unit, and there's like 80 of them or something. Mm-hmm. And we meet their first sergeant. He's the guy in charge.
Right.
And he was really nice, but he also had a very distinct voice. And I'm good at voices. So I started practicing his...
You couldn't help yourself.
I couldn't. And I nailed it. Like, day 4, I was like, oh, absolutely. But I wasn't going to do anything, like, mean with it by any means. I was just going to have a little bit of fun. But after 4 days, it was like me and the 8 people from my unit that were there were doing, like, all of the work. And, like, the 80 people there to support were doing, like, very little work. And so I started to be like, okay, now I see what's going on. Like, this is not, this ain't happening, you know?
Right.
And so the next day we woke up in the morning, and their first sergeant would always like wake up early, get dressed, ready for the day, like before anybody. And same thing happened that day. He woke up, got dressed, ready, and right before he walked out, we were just in this giant open bay. It was a massive tent with a ton of cots, basically. And he turned around and just started yelling to wake us up, like he does every day, like, wake up, everybody wake up, it's time to get up. And then he would leave, and I stood up and yelled, go back to sleep, everybody go back to sleep, 1 more hour. And then they all did.
Oh no!
And then I turned the lights back off.
Oh,
and they all just Except for like me and the 8 people I came with who were like,
oh, okay.
who were like, did that just work? And I was like, it shouldn't have. But then we got dressed in the pitch black at like 5 a.m. We'll walk outside. An hour later, their first sergeant comes back, opens the door. His entire unit is still asleep an hour after he told them all to wake up.
Oh my gosh. How much trouble did they get in?
They had to do lunges across the Mojave Desert, basically. Yeah.
Karma.
And then the 9 of us were just like, well,
Karma.
at least they're getting their exercise now. Like,
as Taylor Swift says, karma is a cat purring on my lap because she loves me.
yeah. I never felt bad about it because
No.
if there was anybody in that unit that was like good to me or
It
like,
was doing anything.
Yeah.
Like the bare minimum.
I would have woken him up and be like, come on, this isn't real. I don't know. The thing is, if you're in the military and your first sergeant yells at you to wake up and you know it's that time, you have to wake up. It's been that same time every day. And then you go back to sleep after that.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. I had my watch, my own alarm on my watch set 15 minutes prior to the time I knew he was going to wake us up. Because I was, no, we're not falling for this. And even if he did say go back to sleep, I'm like, I'm awake now. I'm going to go get some breakfast. I'm going to take an hour to chill. I'm not going back to sleep. That's how people get in trouble.
People lack critical thinking skills too often.
Yeah.
And that's not just in the military. That's everywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially the internet.
Yeah. So I turned this into a joke. And it's on my Dry Bar special. And so if you want to watch the full like 5-minute joke story about this, it's out there. But the time that I got in trouble,
oh goodness,
was way funnier than it should have been.
Okay, I'm ready.
So this was during the pandemic. So we were doing virtual drill. And I'm not sure what active duty soldiers were doing. I've heard a couple different, I guess it depends on your unit, whatever your unit was decided to do at this time. But we could not report in person to our unit during the pandemic. So we did Microsoft Teams virtual drill.
Oh my goodness.
And it was basically just a bunch of PowerPoints. That's all it was. It was every day we'd wake up, PowerPoint.
Like this meeting could have been an email vibe.
Exactly. That's most meetings in the military. But
most meetings, period.
Yeah, well, a lot of times the meetings in the military happen because we need to say like one thing, but we also need to take up time. So
Got it.
PowerPoints.
Right.
And so we'd wake up at like 6 a.m. On a weekend to sign into Microsoft Teams to report for virtual drill so we could listen to somebody read a PowerPoint to us.
That sounds awful.
For 2 days.
Ugh.
And this was like, so I had started to get big on TikTok at this point.
Right.
And so I made a dumb little video making jokes about virtual drill. And one of the jokes that I made was that I would wake up, sign in, put it on mute, go back to sleep.
Oh, no.
And that wasn't even like the main punchline of the video, but it was definitely a thing that I said. And the video it blew up. It got a ton of love from all other military personnel that were going through the same thing and just laughing, whatever. And then the Military Times wrote an article about it.
Oh.
Where they transcribed everything that I had said.
Oh.
And they linked the video too. But if you're just reading the transcription, I'm basically telling everyone that like, hey, the military wakes up at 6 a.m. and then goes back to sleep, which is not too far from the truth, but you can't say that. And the article got so popular that somebody eventually showed the 3-star commanding general of the entire Army Reserves.
Oh.
Yeah. And we have a saying in the military called rolls downhill.
Oh, yeah.
So it started at the top.
And
the 3-star commanding general of the entire Army Reserves heard about this video and got mad. And then I heard about it. That hit every soldier on the way down to me.
Oh no.
The problem was not for me. The problem for the 3-star general is that it was funny. So they would listen to her yell at them, and then as soon as she would leave, they would look at it and laugh.
Oh no.
And then they had to like walk into another meeting and be like, no, this is serious. Put on like their serious face and then yell at somebody else. And then they would laugh. And then they would go down. And so it was just a bunch of like fake anger and laughter on the way down to me. So it got down to me and it was like my first sergeant was sitting me down in a room and be like, Brainerd, this is so funny. But why did you do it? You can't do this. I don't want you to be in trouble because this is funny. But like I need to yell at you right now. And I was like, I know, I know. And so the compromise was that I took any video I had on TikTok where I was referencing the military or wearing my uniform. I had to private all those videos.
Oh.
And so that one's still privated, but I'm out now, so I can unprivate it, and I will right after this podcast is over because I'm remembering it now. Yeah. But that's not where it stopped.
Oh, no.
The 3-star commanding general of the entire Army Reserves decided to lift the ban on in-person drill so that we would all have to come to drill in like December of 2020, I think.
Oh, wow.
And then she personally flew to Lakeland, Florida to come to my drill unit to make sure that I was there.
Oh, no. What did she say to you?
She didn't talk to me directly, which is worse. But she talked to everybody in my chain of command.
Oh my gosh.
And they were all like, we don't get it. Like, Brainerd's a good soldier. Like, he's squared away. Like, he's on top of it. As far as, like, the E4 Mafia is concerned, Brainerd's, like, the closest thing that we have to, like, just a person we can treat like an NCO. And so she was like, I don't believe, like, I don't know what the conversation, but she was so mad. She was the only person that was involved in this that was not laughing. And she was also the one that can control all of our careers on a whim.
Oh, that's so unfortunate.
And so I had to come into a room with like my first sergeant, my captain, oh man, I'm blanking on the title for this rank, but the butter bar, the first lieutenant, second lieutenant, and then my sergeant and my staff sergeant were all there. Everybody above me in the chain of command was all just in this room looking at me, trying not to laugh so that they could yell at me about posting this dumb video. And then we all laughed about it.
I feel like that's something that's been happening with so many careers, is that like social media is really
exposing it,
exposing it, putting everyone in the situation of like, let's laugh about how awful this is.
Yeah.
But at the same, and like the people at the high ups are like, it's not funny, and it's like, no, it is.
I wrote a joke about this too because it's the most insane thing, and it's a quick one, but it was like, I don't like hearing the phrase "thank you for your service" because I often don't feel like I've done enough. Like the question in my head, up to about 5.5 years of my contract was like, hold on, I don't really tell this. I don't like I don't like it when people say thank you for service because I don't feel like I've done enough. But recently, I've found a thing that makes me feel comfortable accepting it. Because the question up to about 5.5 years of my contract was always in my head going, have I ever deployed? No. But have I ever made a joke about the Army Reserves on TikTok And that video got so popular that someone wrote an article about it in the Military Times. And that article got so popular that someone eventually showed the 3-star commanding general of the entire Army Reserves. And then she got so mad that she personally bought a plane ticket to fly down to Lakeland, Florida to come to my drill unit to make sure that I was there awake and in person. Yes, I wasted your tax dollars in the most entertaining way possible. And you're welcome. I had to sign some paperwork saying that I got in trouble, and like they basically made me do like extra chores, for lack of a better term.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
So then, like, you've clearly learned a lot from the military, some good, some bad.
Yep.
Is there any like last kind of, if someone were to only take one thing away from this whole episode, like what would you leave them with about the military in your time there?
I have 2 things.
Okay.
1, tactical spork.
I need you to explain.
I know. So in the military, basically anytime we bring anything to the field, we just call it a tactical whatever.
Okay.
So that's just a silly little joke we have. It's a tactical whatever. But there are a lot of times in the military where you're out and you're like, I don't have a fork or I don't have a spoon or something. And so people would bring a tactical spork.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. My buddy X, it was a Swiss Army knife, but it was utensils. You could pull out a fork and a spoon. It was the greatest thing.
I love that. And
so
you need that in the military.
Bring a tactical spork.
Okay.
And the other thing is, this is a thing that I have to explain during my shows and stuff sometimes. Okay. You can support the troops without supporting the military.
Yeah.
And that's always been my message to people. I support the troops. I don't support the military. The troops are simply people being taken advantage of. The military is the one doing it. You can support the troops without supporting the military.
That makes sense.
That's what I do. Because when you really break it down, the military is just our poor people fighting another country's poor people.
Oh, that hits so hard.
Support the troops because they need it, but you don't have to support the military.
When asking like followers, hey, like is there any stories or anything that you want? Like I got quite a few people that were, well, I don't get why the military soldiers have to be treated like royalty, and I don't think they're treated like royalty.
We are treated far from royalty,
right?
It's more or less like, regardless of how you think about the military or the reasons in which we war. At the end of the day, everybody who signed their name on a paper that says you might die.
Yeah.
The phrase is you sign a blank check worth up to and including your life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So 100 years ago, it was because you're trying to protect the good way of and freedom of America or whatever. Recently, it isn't that, but if it ever became that again, I suppose that is what you are, the one that is being sent. And then we're also treated so chaotically, I'll say, most of the time when we're in.
Yeah.
There's genuine like therapy that you have to go to when you're coming back from deployment.
Absolutely. So important.
Yeah. And most guys don't get that. There's still that stigma in the military that therapy makes you weak or it's whatever. Yeah.
So unfortunate.
And it's getting better, but it's not, we're not where we need to be. So there's just a lot of broken people that
need help.
Yeah. Imagine taking an 18-year-old out of poverty, putting them with a group of 30 to 40 other dudes, forcing them to trauma bond,
right,
and then giving him money and housing and structure for the first time in his life.
Yeah.
And then after 10 years of that, kicking him out the door and never saying anything to him again.
Oh, that's crazy. No, and I think that it's so good that the idea of therapy is becoming so much more popular.
Mm-hmm.
but there's still like that old way of thinking of it's not real or it makes you weak. And I
Yeah.
think that like I think there's this misconception that because soldiers are thanked or because there are military discounts, like
We
there's
got
this
that
idea
10%
that-
discount on most
right,
taco
that
shops.
just makes
Yeah.
we have royalty in the house, and that's not necessarily the case. I think so many people don't think about some of those things that you were just talking about that military soldiers do go through, that so many of them come back and are so broken physically, broken
Yep.
mentally, that the least you can do is give them a 10% discount
Right.
to Taco Bell. Before we wrap up, I have to share this with you.
Oh, no.
I went to this is like one of the most disrespectful things I feel like I've ever seen in regards to the military.
I'm excited now.
I went to a Miss America competition for a friend that was competing. And so I listened to the contestants give their their mission projects, things that they're working on to want to change the world.
Yeah.
And this one girl, I don't know if she was ever in the military or if she had a family in the military. I don't know. But she really stepped up on that stage and said, like, my project is, like, if I'm Miss America and if I do XYZ and, like, my goal is I'm going to eliminate suicide in the military. And it's like, girl.
Oh, my God.
That is...
Oh, my God.
Like, and you could just see people in the crowd get really uncomfortable. And you could tell in the crowd who clearly had been impacted by such a thing and who, like, you could just see the body language and the anger. And, like, it was, because
it's probably threefold. One, people uncomfortable when you mention suicide.
Yes.
Two, people uncomfortable when you mention suicide in the military.
Yes.
Three, the soldiers.
Well, and also the anger of, like, what? Like,
it's a great thing to strive for.
100%. To say, I will do this is such a complex, serious issue. Like,
yeah,
this is so much more than you becoming Miss America for
Fix
a year.
the VA, Miss America.
Right.
How about that?
Right.
How about make sure a veteran doesn't have to wait 3 months before they can get service at the VA?
Right. Like that. It just kind of like belittles how serious of an issue it is and how catastrophic it is.
I hope she does it. I'm rooting for her.
She did not win. I don't think she did.
Okay.
I can't remember what state. I wouldn't say on here because I wouldn't want to like throw her under the bus or anything like that. Even though it was on live television.
Was it Miss United States?
It was Miss America. But thanks for hanging. I mean, literally, we will keep rambling for 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's what we do. So we will do it off camera.
Yeah.
Getting food because I'm hungry.
I'm very hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do that. Thank you all for hanging out with us.
Thanks for coming to my
We're
podcast.
gonna keep talking forever. I'm gonna go put Ben in a princess crown.
Okay.
Tiara.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Absolutely.
It was very last minute, so I'm glad you were able to make it.
Yeah, I was really late. Like, I definitely forgot that I had to wake up and be here for 1:00. I hope to see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye, my lovelies.